Short story. My friend Phil. Marco takes his position at the podium, all eyes on him as he navigates through the wooden bench rows filled with many people dressed in their best possible attire, with flowers in their hands and sadness on their faces. He coughs up the sorrow he feels, clears his voice, and starts. We come here today to bid Phil farewell. I look at your faces and I see some people I know and some I don't. All came for Phil. The man was my childhood neighbor, classmate, school buddy, and lifelong friend. To say he was special is an understatement. Phil is the same age as I am, but I always felt like he was an old soul. I always teased and mocked him by that, and he always replied, I know what you mean. He knew that I was referring to him as one boring grandpa who cannot be aggressive enough in a world that required one to be some sort of a bully to get ahead in life. For those of you who don't know me, I am a childless widower. My wife Fiona passed away 3 years ago. She was best friends with Phil's wife Claire. Allow me to share with you a story that will describe better than I could ever try who Phil was. It was my wife's funeral 3 years ago, and I admit that I didn't have much to say about Fiona. I said that. She was beautiful, lively, had a sense of humor, had a fighter spirit, and her smile was the most charming smile the world has ever seen. May she rest in peace. That's what I said. I thought that was mighty of me, considering that Fiona and I were not on good terms for the last 15 years of our life together. After the funeral, Phil came to me and said, That's it? That's all you could say about Fiona after 27 years of being together? Well, I spare you the details, but I stood by my viewpoint about myself being generous enough, and there was really nothing more to say about Fiona. All she did was try things in life. She never stuck to one path, and I provided for her till she died. When Claire, Phil's wife, died last month, here is what Phil said about her. Claire was a phenomenal human being. We got married in our early 20s. We fell in love in college. Over our 30 years together, I got to witness how this beautiful woman tackled all that challenged her. Claire didn't have an easy life. 3 years into our marriage, she was threatened by miscarriage. She pulled herself together and took it easy with silent but determined faith to get through the pregnancy safe, and she did. 2 years after that, she had an excruciating pain and learned that she needed to undergo a life-threatening operation, which she could or could not survive. Because our 3 kids were very young at the time, she delayed the surgery and tolerated years of pain before she went for the surgery. During that time, she laughed, she played, she sang, she read with our kids. She never felt she's battling with any health issue. She followed up with her schoolwork. She followed up with their schoolwork. She kept our house intact, and she held a full-time job in which she was appreciated for her wonderful spirit. When she went for the surgery, it took all her might to recover almost a year. She spent about 7 years after the surgery with a vulnerable post-surgery body. Whenever she got tired or stressed, her body needed to be wrapped and covered with layers and layers of heavy blankets, just like a newborn who needs to be wrapped to feel safe. I got to see how she came to learn that about her post-surgery body. And she tried to accommodate its needs that often came randomly. She managed carefully while still being the wonderful mother and the amazing wife. She got laid off after along the way. And if you knew my wife, you knew that her sense of independence and self-actualization feasted on her work. Despite her massive talents, great experience, and wonderful personality, she struggled to find the job or type of work that could help her flourish and grow. I got to witness her disappointment, then her self-imposed hope and recovery, then disappointment, then hope, and so on. Claire had a fighter spirit. So this seesaw between disappointment and hope took years. Then both of us grew to this age where your body starts to act differently. Yet one more time, she started to feel the need for more fresh air, ventilation, a total change of her diet and lifestyle. Again, in amazement, I watched how this beautiful woman kept transforming and morphing into various types of butterflies, all with grace, patience, and poise. Sure, sometimes it was harder than her tolerance, and she would break into tears. And it always amazed me how those rare, thick, and so precious tears were just her method of clearing out the way for more hope to sprout through. I got to watch Claire and learn how to be a good life partner, learn how to be a good parent, learn how to be a good fellow human, a beautiful soul, and a blessing to myself and those around me. I never could say, my Claire, because she was and will always be so big, so great. Claire, my wife. I am so lucky to have married you. You've been an amazing wife and a fabulous mom to our kids. Together we made our home a place of love, fun, laughter, and wonderful memories. You and our kids made our life worth living, made my life worth living. Thank you for sharing your life with me, Claire. Good speech, right? But this isn't the point. The point is, Phil meant every word. The point is, my wife Fiona and Claire had similar circumstances, more or less. But I just saw that Fiona changed for the worse and stopped serving my needs the way I wanted them to be served. The point is, the words I said about Fiona are what I saw in her before we got married and a year after our marriage. Because after that, honestly, I stopped noticing her altogether. I just stopped. I looked for her only when I had a need to be met. I just saw me, myself, and I in a marriage that wasn't fulfilling for me. The point is, when Phil shook his head at me in disappointment after I insisted that my words were enough for Fiona, he was literally disappointed in me. The point is, it is quite rare to find a Phil. Phil lived 1 month after the passing of Claire, his wife. And I continued to live on years after Fiona and probably years after Phil too. Here is to honor you, Phil. You were an elevated soul, my friend, and I mean it. A short story by Amal Abul Hassan, my friend Phil.